Welcome back to the board meeting of Fremont Unified School District on May 24th, 2018. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for staying with us. Right now, we just concluded the public speech on items 15.11 and 15.12. And I would like to give the floor to the board for 15.11 now. Student board member, please.
Hello. So, I just want to clarify from my understanding. So the 3 R's isn't mutually exclusive from implementing in task force for future years. And so what this implies for us is that from a student perspective, the transition from 6th grade to 7th grade is extremely important and is integral to the well-being of students from my perspective. So thus, we can implement the 3 R's for this school year, have a task force for the following school year, and implement a better curriculum for next school year. And if parents aren't satisfied with the curriculum for this school year, they can opt out. And so that way we're able to have a task force to improve for future years, all the while still having an option available for this school year, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, this is the first time you speak tonight, and we'll look forward to hearing from you more and more in the future. Board member Ann Crosby.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to sort out anything I might want to say actually on 1512 if it comes to that. But I will say this. There was a mention of abstinence only curriculum, and why don't we pick abstinence only instead? And it's not legal in the state of California to do that. And I guess I'll reserve any other, the other thing I would say is that the 4th and 5th grade curriculum that your students may have some students may have already received is non-compliant, and that's why it's important for them to receive instruction this year so that they can get compliant instruction.
I'm sorry, just for the point of order, we're at 15.11, not at 12 yet. So
I'm explaining why I would support us considering 1512. Correct?
11. So I'm confused.
So we're at 1511, which is to consider or reconsider adopting the 3 R's. So I'm saying I think we should consider it because what we have done already in elementary is non-compliant.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Trustee Campbell.
Okay, I just had a couple of questions, and I think we talked about these questions before we even discussed the reconsideration. Will the teachers have enough time to be able to do this?
As I mentioned at the last board meeting, it's a very, very short time frame. It's possible, but it would definitely require some rearrangement of end of the school year. We basically have about 2 weeks left, and they would need to find approximately 4 to 6 hours to teach the 6th grade lessons.
Oh, it's only 4 to 6 hours?
Correct.
Okay.
The 4 to 6 lessons, so.
Okay,
yes.
And then the parents expressed concern. I heard the parents expressing concern about their 2 weeks opt-out option. What would that look like?
That's something that we would have to resolve here about in the board policy that was passed at the May 2nd meeting. It stated that if parents requested an opt-out with 2 weeks prior to instruction, then we would be able to provide alternative curriculum and have a credentialed teacher ready to teach that. With only 2 weeks left in the school year, it would be more difficult to arrange that. We would have to figure out what approach we would do so that the students would have alternative curriculum.
Okay. And then I heard special education and English learners. Are we offering that to all of our students as well?
Yes, we've accommodated for that.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions I have for the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Burke.
Thank you. Just to comment on why we're considering or reconsidering, and the rationale behind that was that at the last meeting, we had a number of people who came up and said, I'm very disappointed that you took away my child's right to have this education. And from that outcry, both in email and in person, is why it came forward. So with that, I would like to move that we reconsider adopting 3R's curriculum for sixth grade for the 2017-2018 school year.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. So if the board wants to have a further discussion on this agenda item, then please go ahead and put your name in the queue. Okay. If not, I would like to have a vote on this item. Voting yes, meaning that we will move to 15.12 and continue the discussion. Moving, no, meaning you want to end it here.
It is open for your votes. The motion passes with 3 ayes, with Trustee Burke, Campbell, and Crosby voting yes, Trustee Shao Sweeney voting no, Student Board Member Palacio voting yes.
Now we have the majority to bring back this voted item to the board meeting, and which would be the 15.12. And we already have the public speakers speaking on this item. So at this moment, the board shall have the floor, and please put your name in the queue. Trustee Crosby.
Dr. Shao mentioned a concern about in the curriculum where there is a linking of a storyline where it's, I have a friend who's a Christian and they are abstaining or something like that, where they were linking religious belief to action.
No, actually, if you remember, I was referring to the 7th to 9th grade 3R curriculum, where
Okay, I just wanted to.
they were unnecessarily linking the abstinence to the religious background, therefore unfairly stereotyping religious people. That was my remark, as shown in the video. Yes.
Okay, I just wasn't sure whether or not that was also the case in any of the sixth grade curriculum, because I agree with you that that's problematic. It's stereotyping, and I don't think any of us agree with that. So if it's not in the sixth grade curriculum, that's fine. I was just concerned that if it were, that it be removed.
Well, let me clarify. If you recall, on that night, I was merely speaking on the 3R curriculum and its flaws. For example, I gave multiple examples of what I call the internal incoherence of the curriculum, and I gave examples as to what grade and what lesson. That's
Okay,
one thing. Yes.
So I misunderstood what grade level it was at. So the other thing that I want to make sure is that we're clear on partial opt-out, because speaker did mention, and I would like to have that researched, and any parent who whoever that was that happened to absolutely should bring it to the attention of the principal, but it shouldn't be happening at the 6th grade level either.
Okay, thank you. The next one in queue is Trustee Sweeney.
Thank you, President Shaw. I've expressed my concerns with the process since the beginning. I haven't changed my concerns. I've actually heightened them. I think that the opt-out, to me, because the refrain so often was, if you don't like it, you can opt out. I think a better way would be find a common ground so more people would opt in, and then after that, if people want to opt out, they could opt out. But I think what has happened is when we're looking at the opt-out, there's still problems with it. It's still not in the basic languages. It's still not online. It's still not a hard copy. It's still not in the back of the room. Parents don't have a way to preview the material. Some do now, some don't. In fact, even the stuff at on the district's website as of yesterday still said that as of May 2nd, the board has voted not to adopt this. Instead of saying on May 23rd, the board will reconsider this. So I think that's problematic. A speaker spoke about this earlier, and I actually talked to one of the parents, and she wanted me to share it with you. So I'm going to share it. I'm going to go over it fairly briefly because it was already expressed by someone else. But there was a 5th grade class where the teacher, goodness of her heart perhaps, told the boys to leave the classroom, locked the door, and had the girls in the classroom. And then said, she explained about menstrual cycle very briefly, and then did a very, very, very brief demonstration of what to do. She was trying, I'd say goodness of her heart, because in case the girls ever had an emergency. Well, one of the girls said she wanted to leave, and she couldn't leave. She was told not to leave. So to me, this was after the district said we're not going to do sex ed. There were at least 2 girls in there who wanted to opt out, who were trapped, so to speak. I think it's this type of gray area that gives me a lot of pause for concern, that we have to be more direct on exactly what is and what is not opt-out. Partial opt-out has come up a couple times from some of us who've heard, and I think we're all for opt-out. If you don't want to do it, opt out, but we're seeing lots of problems with the opt-out, and I think that has to be fixed. As far as the curriculum and the curriculum committee going forward, what I see is not something that happened in the past. That was too big, too unflexible. In my perfect world, you'd pick maybe 4 advocates from each side, for lack of a better term, and you'd have a couple people from the district. Maybe someone would explain the Brown Act, someone would explain what the basic requirements are, that we have to provide this curriculum if we provide curriculum, and let the 2 sides agree on what should happen. And if they can't agree within 2 months, then you get 8 new people. But there will be an agreement. Pick a date by December. We will have 2 choices to bring to the board, and maybe that would help us, because this is not working. We've seen this for a month now, and all it's done is bring people here, and the level of hate, the level of vitriol, the level of righteousness on all sides needs to be subsided if we're really trying to look for what's the best for the kids. If we want more people involved, we want more sex education, more people be involved in mental health and nutrition, all those sorts of things, I think we can do it. But this, to me, is just not working. And because of the hesitations I had in the beginning, and I'm still seeing them underscored as of this week, I still can't agree to go forward. I don't believe I'm taking the instruction away, because I fully intend to have this back in the classroom next year. I did vote. In fact, I made the motion to have it go forward in 7th and 9th grade. So I think there's an answer out there. I think we just have to commit to solving the problem and getting it done, and then get on to the next thing, just like with some other things that are pressing with.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Sweeney. I have a follow-up remark. You're talking about opt-out. Here in front of me are the numbers of opt-outs in different grades and in different schools. And for example, I see indeed there are much less opt-outs in high schools. However, much more in junior high schools. And even within the junior high, if we have the data between the 7th and 8th grade, we see more people opting out at 7th grade than 8th grade, which is an indication to me that age appropriateness is indeed reflected in the opt-out ratio. The older the students, less opt-out because the parents think they're old enough to receive such education. But the younger ones, especially, we don't have any opt-out data yet for, let's say, the 6th grade. But with this trend, I would predict there are even more opt-out cases in elementary schools, because what people, especially parents who come here and say again, is that they are for sex education. They're not against LGBT plus groups. What they're concerned about is age appropriateness. And this data actually reflects what they were saying. And also, in terms of percentage, Horner Junior High School has 234 students opt out of roughly 1,200 students. So it's around 20%. And Hopkins, with a smaller, about 900 students, has 172 students opt out, also a little bit shy of 20%. So what I'm saying is that, we also have Thornton, 144. So what I'm saying is that, indeed, from the beginning of the choice of the curriculum, we have, already have this kind of possibility that the parents did not get fully involved. So you'll see the high opt-out rate. I'm fully in agreement with Trustee Sweeney's suggestion. Why next time can't we have multiple candidates and then let the committee decide? So that from the beginning, we're not fixated on only one textbook. And I think it's fair, because after all, this 3R textbook was not used in any other elementary schools in the Bay Area, and as shown in the presentation before the board before.
It's not a textbook. They're instructional guides.
Okay.
They just guide the instruction for the teachers.
And-
It's not a textbook.
Right.
And the parents and the students.
The parents have resources to help them
Okay.
communicate
Can
with
Right.
Can I
kids.
please respond to your statistics, the numbers that you've
Sure.
shown? I don't know that the data is valid or reliable, only because we've known that parents are actually getting messages to please opt out to make a point. So if parents are being encouraged to opt out, and I've seen emails that have said that, then I don't know that that is reliable data. And so I would encourage us not to rely on that to say, oh, that means that people really don't want this. I think it's, at this point, at this juncture, it's just making a point.
Yeah, we had this discussion in private before, and I pointed out that from what I read, the email was merely to tell parents that they have this right, and if they want to do so, where they can get the form and everything.
I have seen it. I have seen. The longer you clap, the longer we stay. I have seen a different email, Dr. Shao.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
Can we go back to the queue though, because we
Sure.
have people waiting in the queue.
sure. Trustee Campbell.
I think I may have forgotten what I was going to say now. That we've
That's
been
a first.
waiting.
Mark the time and the date, because I don't think that's.
Well,
a
I was going to actually respond to Trustee Sweeney, and I do agree that we should have some additional options. Matter of fact, I even found one myself. I was at a conference over the weekend. It was a conference on healthy schools, and there was a booth there, and the lady gave me the curriculum. It's called Making Proud Choices. So I have all of this information on Making Proud Choices to be the first curriculum that we look at as part of our task force. I'm going to give this to Dr. Wallace and her team so that they can do that. Secondly, I want to just set the record straight, and I know I've told parents this before, that I have never been opposed to elementary sex ed, and I definitely, since I'm the compromise lady, was always in favor of sixth grade. If I had to make a choice of what grades we would not teach, I was not comfortable with fourth and fifth, but sixth grade would be an option for me to be able to consider. I went back a second time and re-looked at all of the instructional guides for the sixth grade, and there's nothing in it, honestly, that gives me pause, that says, oh, this is not age appropriate, we shouldn't be teaching this. I think that at that age, and because my whole point has always been, we're moving to the middle school model, we need to prepare these kids to be on campus with bigger kids. And I know I've said this to the parents that I've met with on a number of occasions, so I am not going back on what I had originally said and what I originally said that I was going to support. I didn't support it the last time because it was inclusive of fourth and fifth grade. But now that we're only looking at sixth grade, the teachers want it, there's other parents who want it, I think that I will be in support of allowing this instruction to go forward.
Vice President Dr. Burke.
Thank you. I would say that this is the only time I've ever felt that a gap year is not a good thing. Sixth grade is, if we take this away from sixth grade, it's a gap year. They've had education in fourth grade, they've had education in fifth grade. They will have education in seventh grade and eighth grade, and not only that, but they will be mingling with students next year with who have had this education. So by having that gap year for these students, I don't think we're doing them justice. Anecdotally, I had a conversation with my pediatrician and told her what had happened here, and she was surprised because she said she'd always been very impressed with Fremont students, how when she was ready to talk with them about their changing bodies, they said, oh no, we've learned that in school. And she actually commended me as a school board member, saying, you guys have been doing a great job. I'm sorry and sad that it will stop. And I appreciate that people are saying that this is not about LGBTQ individuals. I wish the quotes that I've seen on your Change.org Change.org petition could convince me otherwise, but it doesn't. You guys too, if we keep clapping, we're staying longer. But my point being that maybe there are some of you who do not feel it's about LGBTQ, but there are people who are bold enough to put that down on their Change.org comments. And so that gives me pause, because I think that means that our kids are not safe. If adults in our community are saying these things, then our kids are not safe, and this is even more why we need this education.
Okay, student board member.
I have a question about Dr. Shao's statistics about the less opt-out in high school. Is that due to the fact that we have a mandatory, or not a mandatory, but we have a health class and the curriculum is embedded within it, and so thus it's harder to opt out?
Very good question. Actually, what I heard was something like in some high schools, they were required to write a 22-page project. And then the teacher told them that they cannot partially opt out, because then logistically it'll be hard to say how many pages you have to write. So either you completely opt out and write that 22-page project, or you don't opt out, and you don't have to write a page in addition to that. So that's what I heard.
But is this like part of the health curriculum, like the health class, or is it something separate?
Dr. Herman can respond to the situations at the high school.
The situation that you're speaking to did occur, and the principal immediately intervened and made sure that that student was able to opt out partially. So that is definitely what is going on now at the high schools.
Mm-hmm.
And although it is a part of the general curriculum, students at the high school level do have an opportunity to opt out.
Okay. All right. Anything else, student board member?
I think I would just like once again to advocate for the fact that the transition from 6th grade to 7th grade is a difficult transition, just because of the fact that it is a new environment with new teachers and in essence a very unfamiliar environment. So I think that from my perspective at least, sexual education, at least for this year, should be implemented um, by the end of the school year. So
Um, Trustee Crosby.
I'm not really sure how you received the statistics. I didn't receive them, so I would appreciate it if there's background material that we got all of it. I never.
We got it on a Friday update, I think.
Yes.
I never received it, so it's probably just an email thing, so that's fine. I would have liked to have been able to peruse them, but it sounds like if you're talking about 20%, then there's 80% who would like to have instruction. And I would absolutely agree with Dr. Burke. Not only is the gap happening, it's happening during the summer where a lot of kids are at loose ends, and I would rather to have them have the instruction, know how to protect themselves over the summer months so that they can come back to school and be ready to learn and still healthy.
Right. Thank you for that. As I stated in the May 2nd meeting, we're not against sex education in elementary school. We're not against, I am not against that. I'm not against LGBT group. I was merely talking about the result I found after, dozens of hours that I spent in the curriculum. And once again, I forgot or didn't have the chance to bring anything about the 6th-grade curriculum last time, but I'm glad to bring one to just show if we're going to have sex education in 6th grade,
Can we
why only 3R? If you still have the binder with you, I would like to just point out to the page.
Can we please call it comprehensive health and puberty education rather
Okay.
than just sex education?
Sure. For what it's worth, it did say on this page the comprehensive health, puberty, and sexuality. And this page is right before the 7th grade. If you just flip to the 7th grade, and then the page before the first page of 7th grade, you will find this page. Okay? And it's a homework. Actually, Desiree, you can also look at this page. Homework, what is your advice? Number 1, let me read it. A friend comes to you and says they really needs to talk to you about something. I notice here gender-neutral language is used. So instead of he, she, it says they, a friend, they. That's fine. They say that someone, both at school, concerned or cornered them in the bathroom when no one else was there and touched them between their legs, saying, I know you want it. What would you tell her to do? Did you see the problem?
Are you talking about the pronoun use, Dr. Shao?
The inconsistency of the usage
Them
of
and then her.
Well, that actually just shows, if I have stickers all throughout this binder to just show, concerns I have. It's not like I made it up. And for this to be taught as just something that's well established curriculum or teaching guide to 6th graders, I look at that. First, I got confused. Then I realized it was inconsistency when the gender-neutral language was used. Once again, I have no agenda against gender neutral language. I'm just pointing out here an example. If you were the teacher, what correction would you make to make it more understandable? Okay, then I noticed that the page just before that, if you flip, and it's a worksheet, and multiple parents came to the board using number 2 example and showed their concern. The worksheet number 2 says, Max and Julia spend a lot of time together now that they're a couple. When they find some private time alone, they like to kiss a lot. Max really wants to do something more. And so the next time they were alone together, he tried to pull Julia's shirt up and reach for one of her breasts. She pulls it back down and says, no, okay, etc., etc. The parents brought concerns about this graphic language to this example, if you still recall.
Yes, I recall. I'm asking, what is the graphic language? Is it breasts that some of the population has? I don't understand what the graphic language is.
I don't understand what the problem with the scenario is.
That's a very real scenario. That's what happens with our children who are in 6th grade.
Well, I don't have data to say yes
Fifth,
or no, but at least I would like to remind the board of the concerns of the parents who came here talking about the specific curriculum and their concern that it's not age appropriate.
And Dr. Shao, Dr. Shao, they have the opportunity of opting out of parts or the entire curriculum.
Okay, so if you want to speak, you have to, you already got your chance. So once again, I just want to bring to the attention of the board. I know Trustee Campbell says, she's just fine with what's happening with this 6th grade teaching guide. And it just reminds me, there's something I didn't have a chance to bring about of this 6th grade teaching material.
So can because this has been brought up, this particular scenario, I would like to say, not only am I okay with this scenario, but I'm really pleased that it's in here, because it gives students a chance to think ahead, which is what we want them to do. And this is a
Order.
Allow me to finish my point, please. That this is a real scenario that kids get into. I have been at this age in this similar scenario, and I wish somebody had talked to the student and said, how do you think you're making that girl feel? You strip from her humanity by treating her like a piece of meat that you can do as you please. And as a girl, what words can you use to say, no, I am worth more than this, than for you to treat me like this? No. But if you don't have these kind of scenarios, if you don't have them thinking, it's about empathy. It's about how would you like it as a boy if somebody else was imposing themselves on you? You wouldn't like it. So why do you think it's okay to treat somebody else like that? It's trying to get them to have empathy and to think these things through. And I think it's what we need to be teaching more of in our schools is empathy and do unto others and those type of lessons. And I think in this type of instruction, it's appropriate and age appropriate, and that if someone doesn't feel comfortable with it, I understand, and you have the ability to take your child out of the lesson.
And I would add to that if a child found themselves in that situation, then they should be able to have a trusted adult that they can come to and they can talk to them and they can say, you know, this is what happened to me. But if they've never been exposed to that, then they wouldn't be able to go and talk to a trusted adult and say, you know what, so and so did to me. What do you think? What should I have done? And that's an opportunity for them to share with this homework assignment, to say and talk to their trusted adult, be it their parent or whoever their trusted adult is, and have them explain to them their moral compass about something that would, like that, if that was to happen to them. I mean, I can say even when I was younger than 6th grade, I had an adult touch me in places that was inappropriate. And I could bet you that most of us in here have had somebody who has touched us inappropriately in some fashion throughout our entire lives. And I was too young to even be able to talk to anybody about it because I didn't even know what to say. I was shocked. I didn't have a trusted adult to be able to talk to about it. So yes, touching inappropriate is happening to younger and younger students and children. And I think that this would be a great conversation to have with parents.
Okay. Now, with no one in queue, may I entertain a motion?
I move to adopt the 3 R's curriculum for 6th grade for the 2017-2018 school year.
I'll second.
Can I ask just a clarifying question? Do we have all the records from before when the children wanted to opt out? Those haven't been destroyed, or we don't have to go through the process? We have all
We
those
still
filled
have
out.
them, and we'll give a few days notice before instruction begins so parents can continue to opt out if they, since this change is happening. So, well, maybe happening depending on your vote.
Just one clarification. Is it true that they are? It is required that the parents have to have 2 weeks to review the alternative curriculum?
It's in our board policy that they need to submit 2 weeks in advance in order to have the alternative curriculum. We have the alternative curriculum online. It's been online since December, essentially. I think they've maybe altered little bits here and there, but for the most part, it's been the same alternative curriculum from at least for the last 2 months.
Okay, thank you.
It is open
Just
for
need
your
to have
votes.
some arrangement so that teachers can swap students, and so a teacher might be teaching all the students who have opted out with one material and the other teacher. So we just need a few days to probably pull it together.
Okay. So it's ready to vote?
It's open for your votes, yes.
Thank you.
The motion passes with 3 ayes, with trustees Burke, Campbell, and Crosby voting yes, and trustee Shao and Sweeney voting no. Student board member Palacio also voting yes.
Okay, we move down to the next item, which is to report out and receive input on the Labor Management Collaborative. Do we have any public speakers on that?
Yes, Ms. Victoria Burbank Herrera. You should get going. You should get going. Oh, that's right. Let's go.
Good morning again, board and district staff. Just on the topic of labor management collaboration, I know you'll discuss kind of where we are on that, but I would just like to say from FETA's perspective, because we had always had the intention with labor management collaboration that it would not be discussion of financial things, and regardless then of what was happening with money, that we would be able to perhaps have that. And so it isn't so much that as situations like today that it felt again like being told we were being chastised, and yet again we had situations where our educators are actively being booed, and the public was not addressed in that case, just as in a few weeks ago our educators were spoken poorly about and we were not stood up for, and yet Dr. Shao, you felt it appropriate to correct us during oral communications when we spoke on items about the budget. It seemed like we're really not being consistent with rules, and that educators are always on the brunt of that. So I would say that is the sort of thing that makes it more and more difficult to work together, not just the disagreement about a raise or not. And so I'm hoping that we can continue to work on those relationships and just be mindful that those are the things that end up being really damaging, not so much just our disagreements about budget, which those of you who've been around a while know will continue to happen. So just please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Right. Now the board has the floor, and is there anything to report?
Well, we're kind of on hold. I think that's what there is to report.
On hiatus until October.
Thank you. Yeah, there's been just various things going on in terms of attendance. Not all bargaining groups were represented. We wanted to make sure everybody was able to come to the table who wanted to be at the table. We put out a survey to see what was a priority for people throughout the district. We got information back, and then when we put out a second request to find out who would be interested in coming and working on some of these issues, we only had, I think, 4 responses, and one of them was Patty. So it just felt that. So it just felt that we were at a point where we needed to take a break for a little bit, which is what we are doing until October.
Unless we find some common task that we want to do in between times. We did say that if something came up that was a one-off activity or action, we would join together sooner than that.
All right. Anything else to say on this item?
Personally, I would like to say thank you for having it in the first place. And I think, I don't know if Ms. Rebecca Herrera would agree, but I think it's an opportunity for us to be at the table without any hierarchy, without any looking down upon or anything like that. It's been very collaborative and informative. And so I appreciate that opportunity to have participated.
Okay, with no one in queue, then we will move to 17.2 calendar. Okay, Trustee Crosby.
We had a request for information, and I think I would like to have a better understanding on what's having the request for leave and where we stand on psychologists. And I don't know if we need to have an agenda item or just a sense from the board about the great shakeout. I would like to see us make a really concerted effort to have that really a good walkthrough, including figuring out how we're, at Part 1 before we've had it where we've tried to figure out how you would sign out students and everything. You had different parents come and play different scenarios, and so it would be good to have an idea at all of our sites. And then also, I would like to bring forward a resolution in support of unions and the work that they do. We've been asked by SEIU to consider such a thing, and so if there's another board member who's interested, okay, then I have a version and can help get that.
And I don't have any version.
And you don't have any what?
Don't, he's just being.
Oh.
I didn't say I had a version. I said I have a version that we can work with, and I can help have that happen. Yes, put my name next to it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Trustee Campbell.
Like to, we heard today from the great surfboard E about the calendar, and I wanted to see where we are with the calendar. I know it's a negotiated item, but I'd like to, I know the last time we set a 2-year calendar, 3-year calendar, and when does that expire?
We have 2018-19, and we'll start talking calendar in January of next year. Is that correct? Yes? If not earlier, okay.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see how we can include the surfboard E in that calendaring conversation.
I think it might be a nice idea to have maybe a calendar study session in maybe September or so, and then that way SURF can present on what the data is that they've collected so far. I don't know, Palace, if you have a thought on that. If that's
We were also planning to like show up at staff development during the summer, so we would have data by then, as well as prepared reports. I believe our reports and our video is done, but
great.
so we're ready.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we'll just we'll start in September so we can front load.
That's great.
Okay, so that would be great. I heard that from them, and I think I heard one other thing. Did you get another board member to talk about the big shakeout, the shakeout?
Oh,
I thought you did.
Well, do one of you want to
Yes.
do it?
Mm-hmm. And we talked about the description and the request for leaves, whether we're actually getting those or not as well, right?
Okay, now it's my turn to repeat everything Trustee Crosby's asked for.
Oh,
No, wait a second. Did Trustee Crosby, did you say that about the leaves? Because if you did, I missed it.
About requesting information about how leaves are being, yeah, so not a board item per se, just an update to let us know what's happening, because I feel like there's a disconnect.
Yes, and I think we did provide, was it last Friday's update? A week ago, almost update. So let's see what other information you can send your request through me if you want some additional information.
Well, and I think perhaps the FUTA president's comment about are routinely submitted for board approval, and the point being that we're getting this after the fact, not necessarily approving it, but we're approving something that's coming to us after it's been decided, approved or denied or whatever.
We're only getting partial.
Right. So just on a very semantic level, I think the wording has to change in the...
I noted that.
Okay. But the process itself should be explored to make sure that we're doing the process correctly.
And I think she mentioned that it was in the contract. So this may be contract language. So
And if it's contract language and we're not following it, that's a separate
right,
issue.
which means we can't change this.
Correct.
We need to change our process.
Dr. Zamora, do you want to briefly address that?
So in contract language, whether it's SEAU, CSCA, or FUTA, there may be some areas where it says where it's board approval, and so the board has delegated authority to me to have that either approved or denied, and that's just normal contract language as is stated in the contract.
No, but this reads, all personnel activities, including new hires, resignations, requests for leaves, and retirement are routinely submitted for board approval. So what we're getting now, routinely submitted, is we're getting all the new hires, we're getting resignations, we're getting retirements, but we're not getting requests for leaves.
Unless it's been approved. Unless it's been approved.
Right.
Unless it's been approved.
Correct.
So this is, this wording here is contradictory to what we're actually receiving.
Yeah, because a request for leave, what I would anticipate is that a request for leave denied, a request for leave approved.
Right.
Duly noted. And I'll have a further update for you about that. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Campbell. Oh, sorry, Trustee Burke.
We look alike.
It's
I
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I had a question about, I just refresh my memory if solar is coming back to us
July 25th.
July 25th. And will that include an RFP? Or is it, what it's, just help me.
I think your last direction to us was to explore partnerships with the city, and if there was an opportunity, we would bring it to you. And so I don't know, do we have an opportunity on the table right now?
Yeah, it's not quite an RFP yet. I think we've been partnering with the city, we've been gathering information, and I think it would be a presentation to seek direction of the next step, whether we're going to proceed and do an RFP or postpone.
And if we were going to do that, I think we'd have to have a couple ideas on how to fund it.
Right.
At the same time, because that's
Right, and
expensive.
yeah, and then the other thought is that if we're going to be building new buildings, we might want to have that sooner rather than later, so that it's incorporated into the planning rather than an afterthought.
If I could add something, I was just at the ROP meeting, and we were talking. We received some information on the FUS fellow. I believe. Oh, okay. Just checking. On the FUS fellow. The ROP, the cost of $75,000. ROP would be willing to put up $50,000 if FUSD, who I don't think we're intending to go forward with that, but if we were to extend it for a year, we would pick up 2/3 of the cost. Or ROP would pick up 2/3 of the cost. Food for thought, if you guys want to talk about it. ROP sees a huge value in another year.
I was wondering, oh, I'm sorry, were you done? I just wanted to add one more thing before it leaves
Put my one sentence
my brain. The city liaison committee that we have,
Yes.
the next step was for us to try to find some areas where we could work together. Maybe, can we bring that back on the next agenda? Because I do have some recommendations on things that I would like for us to see if we could work together on.
Bring back
To the June
this
6th.
next,
The June 6th meeting, before we
to
have
gather
our next one.
ideas for
To
the next
gather idea
liaison.
for
Okay,
the-
I'm
Yes.
tracking.
Was this that idea you were talking about, where asking the city to stop approving all developments to benefit the school? Was that it?
That was
Excellent.
the one. That was the one. But yeah, I do have some ideas.
Okay,
I have one thing.
sure.
I had spoken to a couple of trustees about this idea and wanted to see if there was interest from the group around. At the June 6th board meeting, we were planning to bring the task force, the Comprehensive Health, Puberty, and Sexuality Education Task Force, bylaws, suggested composition, application form, and informational blurb. And I ran it by a couple of trustees to suggest that maybe we have a subcommittee of the board, just 2 board members, I have drafts of everything, but instead of wordsmithing together in public, that maybe 2 board members want to take that on and do the first pass before bringing it to the board meeting, because that's going to be a lot of material to go through in one sitting. So just wanted to throw that out there, see if any 2 trustees might want to meet between now and that board agenda item.
I'd be interested.
Oh, I was going to be.
I'm also interested. I think that having some of it has to do with looking at prior bylaws and sort
Yes.
of adapting them. So I'm pretty familiar with the previous bylaws and some of the language in it, why it was added, things that happened that we said, oh, we better add language here that we want to make sure maybe that's still included.
And I might add, before we embark on this endeavor, I honestly am not going to be supportive at all of some huge group that is a monolithic 50-page bylaws, everybody this, everybody that. Maybe it was to the extreme of saying, hey, 4 in, 4 out, and you have 2 months to come up with something. But there has to be a carrot to get people motivated to come to a conclusion. And what we had before was just too big. It didn't move. It was too adversarial. And the common ground would be, if you can't reach common ground, then we'll find 8 people who can.
Yeah,
Something along those lines.
It's pretty tight
Be
the way I've
9.
drafted it right now. It's got deadlines, timelines. You're making a recommendation by this date. You have to meet this many times, and so
Time
I want
certain,
you
time
guys to
certain.
work with it and just take what I've started and we based the bylaws off of the original bylaws, and so there's a whole bunch of edits that have already been done. But I thought maybe just do some work behind the scenes before bringing it to the full board. That would be a
Okay, so Larry, it sounds like you have a lot of experience and also have some opinion on. Would you like to be on that?
I actually believe that there's people who have a passion who want to be on it. If no one else wants to be on it, I'll be happy to be there. But I do believe there's at least 2 board members here who want to be on it. It's going to have to come to the board. The board's going to have updates. If it's not working, then we're going to have to it has to come up with some recommendations by, pick a date, November 15th, December 12th, whatever it is. And if it isn't, then we move on. I think everybody's of the same mind, and maybe it comes up with 2 options or something that's way different than what we have, because what we had in the past got to be too big and it couldn't move out of its own way.
So, Trustee Campbell and Trustee Crosby both have volunteered. If for some reason you need a backup, let me know.
And I would just like to reassure that my intent is to make sure going into it, we have something that's very equitable so that it's successful. I would like to see it be successful. So I'm not going to, even though, we may disagree, I'm not going to try to front load, sort of my belief system. I really want it to be successful and to have it be equitable. So
And open and transparent. That's my yeah. same. It's the same word. It means the same thing.
Okay. All right. So we have 2 board members on that task force. Okay. I just want to have some follow-up data on the dual pathway science curriculum. Right now. Okay, this Friday is great. All right.
May I comment?
No, I just want to exhaust all the possible agenda items.
By the way, this is the latest of any board meeting in the last 16 years. Easy. Like 310 was the one before, but this is.
Dr. Shao, just
Okay.
something brief. Dr. Shao?
Yes.
Something brief. I did, and I'm so sorry to be so persistent on this, but I'm still in need of a trustee to support with one of our final interviews. So I did send you an email, and I gave you 2 different dates.
Uh-huh.
If you could please respond as soon as possible so that we can confirm the rest of the interviews. I just emailed you earlier today.
Didn't we have this conversation about?
we took one of them and
Oh,
now I have the other.
Okay. So we will all take a look at the
Please.
email and respond.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With no further ado, the meeting is adjourned.